How you doing? All right.
Yeah, not too bad.
Good,
Keeping
man.
keeping things moving, right?
Yeah, man. Always busy, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You on the road?
Yeah. In a hotel. Hey, man. In
Fine.
right on the border. So Mexico's right there.
Okay,
Yeah. Um,
cool.
working a migration story as normal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Lots of migration in Texas, eh?
Yeah.
In California too, I guess.
All over
Yeah.
the world, right? In
All
some way or
over.
another.
Man,
Some way or
so much
another.
migration out of Ukraine right now. Have you
Yeah,
seen the
that's
news?
nuts. Yeah. Those numbers are staggering when you actually look at it in comparison with I mean, war puts people on a path out of danger, right? So
Yeah.
I can imagine those numbers only increasing over the next period of weeks if things don't get resolved or come to some type of agreement. But
Yeah.
it's bleak. Yeah, definitely is.
It's pretty rough, isn't it? Bless them. That's a horrible scenario. Well, how are you
Yeah,
guys anyway? You're you're in a better place, right?
yeah. No complaints over there.
Yeah. How are you, Sabi?
Good by morning. Morning said, good to see you both.
Morning, mate. How are you?
Yeah, just it's been a very busy time for me at work. Sometimes work is very slow. That's when I feel very creative, and other times work is very, very busy. So this is the busier time of the year.
You even though your work is busy, you're still managing to put pressure on your journalism. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely, absolutely. By the way, Sid, I don't know if you know, but one of my pieces got accepted.
Amazing.
And I
Congrats.
shared that with Spike. But bad news is it's not a photo story; it's an essay. But
That's,
still, it's part of the
yeah.
freelance thing. So,
Yeah.
I was telling my wife it's been. I started my career as a freelancer back in India. So I'm talking 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like I'm connecting with my 20-year-old self.
It's
No,
good, man.
really, it feels like I made a lot of money. By the way, I made a good chunk of money for a 20-year-old in Bangalore. Oh
Are you
man,
from Bangalore too? Look,
yeah,
look at
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Are
the
You
you
small
both
too?
from
town, man.
Bangalore?
Oh wow, very
Look at
cool.
that.
What are the odds?
Yeah, man.
Some of the best people, Spike, come from my town.
Yeah,
So,
Apparently
Bangalore's a good
so.
place to be.
And you guys have a. It turns out you have a great work ethic.
thank you.
You're on this member call early in the morning. It's good
Thank
stuff.
you.
But also, you know, Sabith, you're in a really good place because you know how to pitch and you know how to write and you know how to form that narrative arc.
Yeah.
I'll write an article on this fairly soon on diversification. But if you can photograph as well as write those written stories and pitch those written stories, then you get paid double. Then if you can
Yeah.
add some video on, you get paid triple. But as a freelancer or pitching as a freelancer, it's so important to have diversification of skill set.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I talk a lot about selling the same project in various forms to different outlets or splitting things into chapters and selling it multiple times to multiple outlets. But then if you can add that diversification layer on as well, then you can get paid. You can take that chapter, you can get paid 3 times for it because you're doing photo, video, and
Right.
written.
No,
And you
absolutely.
can publish it with multiple outlets, and then
I can quit my job.
and you well, for sure, man.
No, I like my job. I mean, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah,
There's no reason to quit. But yeah, buy the second home that we always wanted, right?
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't have to be about
Or go on vacations and hang out with Spike Lee on the border.
yeah
Sorry,
buy a
Spike Jonze.
speedboat.
I'm sorry. Or buy a speedboat. Yeah.
Buy a speedboat, whatever. Yeah, it doesn't have to be about just being a freelancer. And honestly, it's a great lifestyle for a bit, but you've got to be careful with that because it's ups and downs.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah,
I find that sorry, Spike, I was just gonna say it's a good way, I guess, like pitching what you got, like the talents and these skills to kind of get you the next work or even just open up doors. Because once you're, I think you build that relationship, there's always revenue. So I'm building websites in the background. That's become like a side hustle that I didn't, I've dabbled in when I was growing up doing HTML. I don't do coding. I do more for like the easy e-commerce and more portfolio based stuff now. But it became like a quick bread and butter for the start of the year to come in and almost like branch off into like doing like a little bit of a creative agency build to just to take cultural brands and artists here in Toronto and people that I know and support them through that. So it's interesting. Something that you've done before can always open that door, and I can provide that full works of like product photography if I wanted to go into commercial realm. But I'm trying to lean it more towards like the campaign stuff. So I did this cool brand fashion shoot with a friend of mine and built the e-commerce website. So it became like a full package, which I see as like, being marketable. So it's cool when you're able to have that one skill and then, just like add the packages to Spike, like you were saying, like the photo, the written, and then the video. That's something I'm trying to work towards, to be able to be that one-stop shop, or that powerhouse that can be able to produce that content.
That's awesome. I didn't even think about that as diversification. So see, I'm learning too. It doesn't necessarily need to be photo, written, video. It could be photo, web design, e-commerce is diversification.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people selling prints online, like old school photographers who have been using, large format film cameras, and they make these beautiful. Oh, actually, he's not. There's a guy I know. He's not particularly old. Oh, damn, what's his name? He's escaping me. But he still uses really large scale film photography, and he's just started a company. He sells prints online, of course. You can click on the image. You can pay $5,000, he'll print it, he'll send it to you, and you own it. You can put it on your wall. But he's just started a new company where he takes his own work. He'll print, for example, like 10 really large scale images of his stuff. It's mostly on Russia, actually, and the Caucasus. And then he'll rent these images to commercial spaces or galleries or something like that. So they get to put it on their wall for a monthly fee. And then once their subscription is ended, he ships it back to himself and rents it to the next person. So there's another business model there, which is real nice. Oh, look at Sid's face. I can see you thinking.
Like, yeah, right. I've seen, oh man, I'm losing the guy's name. We have a Hotel X, which is like a new, boutique hotel that opened up here. They had like a gallery with this one photographer. I'm losing his name. If I find it, I'll share it later. But like, he had some really beautiful landscape photography from around the world. And like he's, and he put it on this mirror like metallic prints, and he's had like an entire space in there. So I wonder if he'd use that model, because that's really smart. Like he's got, right? But yeah, that did send off a light bulb.
I've just put his name in the chat there. He's called Rob Hornstra. Can check that guy out. Yeah. Oh, we've just had Joseph join as well. And Sid, I saw your email yesterday about your portfolio.
Yeah. Just took a week to kind of build it out. No, actually, I just thought I'd send it your way, as I'm still refining it, building that plane as we fly it, kind of method of just taking the work, doing a revision, and looking at it again.
Right, man.
From your article today, I already realized I'm gonna go back to some of those pieces and maybe even refine them further, because I'm finding my body of work tends to be very large in scope, because I tend to go just shoot a lot to get my creative juices flowing.
Yeah, good.
And then I realized like where I get stuck in sometimes is that editing process of like selecting the images down, because I just got too much. So I think really trying to refine those stories. I already see a couple of things that I will refine now, and focusing, sometimes I'm like, I feel like when you have a body of work, you need to have the full body of work presented versus just having that chapter presented. So that talk we had really helped me in terms of just like signaling down into, what is one chapter going to look like? Can it be one component of this overall thing? So I found a lot of my stuff is team-based.
Yeah, nice. I think that's just before I lose that train of thought, that's maybe a nice avenue for Sabith as you're developing your photographic process is not necessarily or is casting a really wide net and just trying to photograph get as many images in as possible, photograph, practice, and then after that you can narrow them down. Because there's a freedom in casting that wide net, like you're saying, Sid, in terms of you're not worrying about, you're not trying to create the perfect image, you're not worrying about perfection, you're just trying to make many images, capture as much as possible. It's a nice way of working, I think. Yeah. Hey Joseph, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys?
Yeah, good. Nice to meet you.
Very good to meet you.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to turn the video on that whole time. So.
Oh, hey, here's a quick question for you. Did any of you guys run into a problem joining with a passcode or a?
Yeah.
Did you? Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think it happens if you try and sign in from outside from your email. It asks for a password, but I think once you log into the community, it doesn't ask for a password.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just figured that out today because I tried logging in from the email you sent. That's why I emailed you earlier.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Sid sent the same email. Okay, well maybe it's survival of the fittest and you guys are the ones who figured that out. Maybe there's other people who can't get in, so I'll fix that for next time.
Yeah, maybe just an email line mentioning that would help.
Yeah. Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Joseph, what are you working on, man? You want to speak about your work a little?
Yeah, sure. I'm been doing the photography for about 7 or 8 years now professionally. Give a little backstory. I started in weddings, still kind of in weddings. I believe you got to have something to make money if you want to do what you want to do. So weddings are kind of the bread and butter. And then I've been doing a push more into documentary photojournalism type photography, hence why I'm here. And so right now, currently don't have any projects that I'm working on, but I have some planned for this month. I'll be getting to go to Poland and hopefully Romania to document some of the refugees that are crossing over the border from Ukraine. And then I've got an assignment in Africa that's coming up. This all just happened last 2 or 3 years. I've been super dead, nothing going on, obviously COVID, but so things are kind of ramping up a little bit. But so, yeah, I'm really excited to tell a little bit of that story, that part of that story of the refugees and kind of what that process and struggle looks like through their eyes kind of idea. So yeah,
Wow.
on the radar.
Nice, man. Wow.
Yeah.
You're busy.
Now, like, I swear, it was, I've had nothing going on until this month, and 3 people were like, "You want to work with us?" I was like, "All right, I guess I'll do it." Yeah.
Well, when it's the time, huh?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
Where are you based, Joseph?
I'm sorry, what?
Where do you live? Where are you based?
Oh, I live in Springfield, Missouri currently, but we'll be relocating to Kansas City, Missouri, kind of middle of this year. Try to make a little bit more of a push for the publications in that area, because this where I'm from is pretty small. It's like 150,000, not terribly small, but there just really isn't much news going on. There really isn't much to shoot other than just my friends in the same abandoned buildings, that kind of idea. So yeah, relocating to Kansas City, and then kind of further out from there, we're not sure. So yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Chasing the work, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've had a very clear mind lately of recognizing the struggle that it is to start anything new, especially in the creative world. To be a freelancer is a weird thing, because I've been doing weddings for long enough to where I've just got a business that's essentially running itself. And so it's pretty humbling to get back into something where I'm like, I've done this for years, but I've never actually done this and like focused and kind of made it a priority. So lots of priority shifts are happening, and I'm seeing a lot of growth just from that kind of that invite, kind of where I'm just inviting it in and saying, yeah, you can be here. So
yeah. Hey, that's interesting. Yeah. I speak a little bit about self-invite in terms of pushing yourself through the door, but I guess you have to with freelance, right? But I hadn't considered inviting freelance into you, asking for that energy to come in towards yourself, trying to attract things. That's a nice existential perspective on the work. I think. Yeah.
I tend to go that direction very quickly, but it really is one of those things I believe that until you're ready to like be very uncomfortable for something, I don't think you're actually ready to accept it or have that responsibility of having it until you're ready to say, no, this is what I want to do, and I'll do whatever that takes. And so, yeah, it's this interesting kind of like a dance where you're inviting it in. You're kind of inviting yourself into these areas, but you also have to kind of like allow yourself to take that on. I don't know, maybe a little too existential, but
no, I agree with you. And I think some of it's about ego too. You know, when I was younger, I probably had my perspectives incorrect and my motivations incorrect. And, you know, I thought it was all rock and roll and pushed too hard into it. But I felt like once I eased back a little bit and I allowed myself to be vulnerable enough to learn and make mistakes within the photo community or within the stories that I was covering, that the doors opened easier. You know, I was more relaxed. I wasn't pretending like I knew everything. I still don't, obviously. So I think all of that stuff is totally valid mindsets. Yeah. We were also speaking just before you jumped on a little bit. I was speaking with Sid and Sabith about having other side hustles as well, and you know, the idea of just being that photojournalist freelancer is awesome, and it's absolutely possible. But why not be working other things? Why not be shooting weddings? Personally, I shoot some commercial stuff as well, so I'll make lifestyle shoots, or I'll make, you know, some real estate sometimes, because the money, I cannot turn down that money.
Oh yeah.
It's just the way it is. Yeah, I think it's the freelance. I don't know. It's important to be able to duck and dive a bit and cover many perspectives. What is important, though, I guess, is just making sure that those things that you are. I mean, if you're inspired by weddings, awesome. That's fantastic. If you begin to do work that is not inspiring to yourself, that takes that energy away, then that becomes a problem, I reckon. Yeah. And before
I ran through a big period of burnout like 2 years ago, where I was about to sell every camera I owned and just become a mechanic or something. I was very much at that point, and I got saved out of it, which was great. But and I'm happy to be here. But yeah, it's very, very easy. So with weddings, it's a very pick and choose kind of ordeal, and then a lot of commercial work and headshots, and I'll shoot anything pretty much. I like being a generalist. It's a lot of fun to just kind of be in a lot of different worlds all in the same month, instead of just, oh, here's another wedding and another wedding, and is this my life now? Is this where I live? And especially with weddings, you know, you only have so much energy for weddings just to even attend. So yeah.
And there's a learning that comes from the journalism. I love, like today I'm down here in Mexico, and I'll push further on after we jump on this call, and I love that each new place I go, I get to meet new people, and I get to see a different narrative, and I get to see a different group of people living a different life. And then the realities of what they're doing isn't learned through the newspapers, which have a skew, you know. I guess what I'm getting at is you get to learn about it firsthand. I love that. And with that builds empathy with different groups of people, which is super nice. Before I forget, if you're pushing towards Ukraine, let me know before you go. I've covered that war for a few years on and off, so I have some contacts around that area for you if you need that help.
Yeah,
and safety advice as well, because it's rough down there.
I spent it's not my first introduction to a war zone, even though it is my second. So, but I spent 9 days in Mosul, Iraq in 2017, covering the the battle against ISIS, and I was there with an org, basically an aid organization that goes in there and shoots back at ISIS and picks up the people that got shot, brings them back, and that kind of idea. So it's going to be kind of in the same mind as that. Just being in the middle of a war zone is a very strange thing, but there's a lot going on. This is a historical time that we're living in, and to be a part of that would be just an unbelievable honor. So
Yeah. Help
Yeah.
some people, perhaps.
yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Cool. And what are you going to do in Africa? I'm really I'm jealous.
Yeah, I'm shooting. It's very not sexy, but being in the Midwest and the Bible Belt, there's a lot of very Christian AG kind of orgs that I've worked with. So this is going to be kind of in that mind. So probably a water project or a school or something along those lines. Not to downplay what they're doing. I just don't really agree with the way they do it. But so it's that one's not as, not as sexy, but it'll still be amazing to be out working and getting paid to take pictures. Bottom line, that's my favorite thing is I just I get paid to hold a camera. What an insane idea. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. As long as you can do that, you're a lucky man. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Spike, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Actually, more of a brainstorm, and others feel free to jump in as well. So in December, I visited my brother who lives in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And I went with my wife and we did a road trip. I hadn't seen him in 5 years, so it was quite overdue, one of those trips. And we did a road trip from Riyadh to all the way to Mecca. We actually stopped in Jeddah, went to Mecca on the way back. So I obviously took my camera, took a bunch of pictures. Some of them are pretty good, I think. And I'm thinking there are at least 3 to 4 stories there, right, in terms of framing.
Okay.
One is, of course, and the interesting thing is I know the country fairly well, in the sense I haven't lived in Saudi, but I visited once earlier. I've written about Saudi Arabia. I studied nonprofits, so that's my research. And earlier I was invited by a university in 2017 to do some research in the eastern part of the country. So I know the social dynamics fairly well in terms of what's really going on, how much of it is bullshit, how much of it is real. So I can sort of tell without being naive. And I do think there's some real changes happening. Even if you look at it critically, a lot of it is PR, of course, right? They're doing a fairly decent job at some level, despite Jamal Khashoggi and all that. But some of it is actually real. Some of it seems, it could be real social change. For instance, some of my students are from Saudi Arabia at my university, and they're women, and they are actually getting real jobs with real power.
That's good.
Yeah, one of them is director of gender, whatever they call it, gender balancing or whatever. So she actually has a budget. She does have the power to fire people, which is incredible if you think about it, right? In a country as conservative as that.
It's a nice story.
Yeah, thank you. So I was thinking of writing a pitch on that angle. That's one larger story, and I'm happy to get inputs from all of you later. I'll write the pitch and send it to you all. The second story, so me and my wife went to this really fancy restaurant for breakfast, and a really weird thing, they had this robot serving us. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why would literally a robot? I'll send you guys a picture later. And it is so, and it didn't even do the job properly, if you know what I mean.
Where was this? In California?
In Riyadh, in the capital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was one of those bizarre things. And I tried to have a conversation with the waiter and the manager saying, hey, if this thing is not even doing his job, it basically brought the food and he had to take it out and serve us and we're still figuring it out. So it's kind of a funny moment. But I was thinking just with that picture, I think there's a narrative, right? Of what they're trying to do and how it's so fucked up and it's not really working, if that makes sense. And that happens even here, right? If you go to Sprouts or any other grocery, there are those machines that the checkout machines. Yeah, the checkout machines, half the time they don't work, right?
Yeah.
Or you need a human intervention. So I was thinking if there's a story there, but just using one picture, just of the robot, I was wondering what you all thought of that. The second, this angle to the story.
I see the theme.
Go on, Sid.
No, I see the overall theme, like with mechanical automation, like with grocery stores, like we've had it here. We've had it's efficient in one way for some places.
Right.
And then the same thing, it cuts down like the workforce dramatically. So that's the theme I see right from when you were just talking about that.
Yeah, I think it's from a financial standpoint, they can hire that one person to fix fix the machines when they go down rather than hiring 10 people to do the job of the machines. I that's what I can see as well. But
I'm trying to take your advice back, and again, I'm not a visual thinker like the three of you, or at least I'm not as adept as that. So my challenge is with the limited images I have. Of course, the easy thing is for me to fly back to Riyadh and try and shoot the robot the whole day, right? Or more pictures. But right now, assuming I can't do it, assuming I just want to play with that one picture and maybe some pictures here in the US, which I have more access to, what is your advice in terms of maximizing what I have in terms of visual, output, but crafting and again, like you said, I tend to rely on the written word a lot more right now, but I want to shift, at least for this story. What are your thoughts in terms of balancing that act, visual versus written word?
I think you could pitch it with one image. Okay. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Okay.
I mean, of course, it would be more of a written story if there's only one image. I think flying back to Saudi Arabia would probably cost you more than you'd make on the piece.
That's true.
So I think you'd be at a loss there, which if you wanted to, if it was the beginning of a larger body of work, then perhaps that's an investment you want to make.
Yeah.
That's, I think, up to you. I think you could make a second piece on the same issue in California, though, and add more photos if you wanted to.
Okay.
So I think there's an additional piece there. I'm not sure whether I'd link California and Saudi Arabia. I think it might be apples to oranges a little bit.
True.
As a comparison for me, but you might know better.
Okay.
So I'd probably pitch the one Saudi story on its own. Then I like the idea a lot. I mean, I love the idea. I hear people griping about mechanical service automation a lot, but I haven't seen any pieces on it. So then I would try in California, and it's also a piece that you can make close to your home. And I think it's something that magazines like Wired would buy.
Yeah, I was thinking about it actually.
Yeah. Would they be great? I have contacts with Wired that I can send you as well.
That'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
And then I'd try to, I'd look deep inside and I'd try to find a visual. I mean, of course, you're a great writer, so you'll write a good written piece on this. But I'd look deep inside and I'd try to find an avenue to make this visual in addition. So whether it's, I don't really know how you do it, whether there's a place that's using robots and you can make portraits of robots, that'd be fucking nice.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, portraits of mechanical service robots, that would be beautiful. Never seen that.
I may have to go to the old country, the Great Britain. Apparently the robot came from the UK. Apparently.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was a British robot.
Hey.
And they called her Amy.
Oh, really? I've never met Amy.
Yeah, I was pleased to meet her. And of course, I'm sure you guys are aware, this is so fucked up, but they apparently gave a robot a citizenship.
Oh.
I'm sure you saw that, right?
Where was that?
They gave a robot citizenship of Saudi Arabia a few years ago.
No way.
Yeah. Those guys are, I mean, something's like twisted there, but it happened. And it's happening as we speak. So,
I think that'd be a killer portrait series, man.
Oh yeah.
Actually, yeah. Okay.
And also that's maybe a nice way for yourself as an introduction into a visual narrative, because portraits are portraits. You're not having to embed with anyone. You're not having to.
True.
And that would be killer. I've never seen that.
Okay, yeah. Good to know. I need to figure out where those robots live now and how do I know?
Well, even a portrait of a one of those self-checkout machines.
Okay. Yeah.
Might be interesting.
Yeah.
It depends where you want to draw the line of what is a service robot.
That's true.
That's up to you.
Yeah. Let me see if I have the picture handy here so I can show it to you.
There was sorry, I was just going to mention, since you're on the topic of robots, I know there's implementation of this robot dog for search and rescue in humanitarian scenarios.
That's right.
In the army, it's probably it's always military first, and then it typically jumps into search and rescue, but I know there was, I don't know where I saw it, but I saw some feeds popping up where they're talking about it within the humanitarian sector and utilizing drones also. Drones has
Right.
been like a big uppick of like dropping food off in different places. So I guess
Oh
the goods
yeah.
and bads, the goods and bads of tech, right? Finding
Right.
how to use like blockchain for like refugee IDs. That's something that came up in the humanitarian sector.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there's a big discussion of like blockchain and, you know, it being a future for like providing refugees with IDs that can kind of help them as they navigate between, you know, different countries and whatnot.
That's a
But
good
yeah,
point.
the robot part of the search and rescue is something I was seeing implemented. And I think people are very keen on that because, you know, in a bomb situation,
Right.
you know, you're not risking any human life. A robot is expendable. And then you got what's that movie with Will Smith again? I forgot
Oh,
the name, but
iRobot.
iRobot. You got an iRobot scenario.
Oh, I've got a robotic vacuum cleaner that my wife
Oh, yeah.
loves to use, and it's
Yeah.
fucking useless. It
Really?
is, yeah. So there's the domestic angle as well.
Uh-huh.
It is terrible. It just smashes into doors and
Yeah,
runs
my
over
in-laws
my
bought that
dog.
recently. They were recommending it to my wife. I don't know if we bought it, but yeah.
You could try it
Thanks,
out.
guys. No,
I do not
appreciate that.
like it. No worries.
Yeah.
Before we move on, there's also, and I'm not sure this is where another avenue you're going to want to go down, but there's the, oh, wow.
That's what happened.
I have seen that one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of useless. I mean, they literally have to place food on the tray and basically it walks up to you and gives you the food, right? So here's the picture. I just took it on my iPhone. I didn't have my camera with me. So I said, got to document something.
We do live in the future, don't we? We forget that we live in the future now.
Yeah.
With our, like Sid, you talked about blockchain the other day. I was lying in my hammock a few weeks ago and I was, you know, mucking around with crypto. And then I thought to myself, I'm buying digital currency on a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then if you considered that phrase 10 years ago, you'd be like, what is, I don't know what that is. It's mad, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So Beef, there's also the romantic angle too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's sex robots,
Correct.
which is a weird thing.
No, absolutely. I think there's quite a lot of ideas. Thank you, guys. I appreciate this. I think
Almost
what I'll do
broke
is,
down the chapters.
yeah, a couple of chapters. Yeah, I'll write. Actually, Spike,
Yeah.
if that's okay. I'll send you like 3 pitches.
Yeah,
And I'd appreciate your feedback. No rush again. Take your time.
Yeah,
whenever you have
absolutely. But I think, honestly, mate, I think you're onto that's a really nice thread. That's a really nice thread for narrative chapters, for stories that you can turn visual. Yeah, I love that. I love science fiction anyway, so that's right up my alley. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah. How about you, Sid? I'm going to write you a long email later on your portfolio, but what else have you got? You got any questions?
I think so. I'm I guess pulling back from my archive. So I actually realized I've been documenting for a long time. When did I pick up the camera? I would say like at least a decade worth of work is just sitting in archives. You know, and a lot of it is self-directed. So I'm seeing the value of actually going back and exploring some of that, seeing if I can make things out of it. And I think I've always, you know, just gone and created work, and because it wasn't full time, and you know, I'd always be, you know, hustling on one contract or other. I would just like parking lot that and put it aside. I got a lot of archives from like, you know, India, and I'm exploring, you know, those different themes. So within the humanitarian sector, you know, issues of borders and migration has always been, you know, key. Wherever I've been connected to some story over there. And then, you know, the cultural angle. So I'm starting to like, you know, go back and do the research to figure out like kind of what are some pieces I can take out, and, you know, that breaking down the chapter is helpful. I got one question around the good old editing question and you know, selection, just out of fun, because I was trying to go through my archives and, you know, almost give it like a new look with editing and editing techniques. So I was curious on your take on color grading. You know, color grading for obviously for video is much different from, you know, your editing, but running it through software also, that kind of gives it this film look. It's stuff I always play around with, but I also realize that's where I get stuck, because I go down this rabbit hole of just editing and not having one concise look, because it's, you know, it's fun to play around with the digital darkroom and, you know, try different techniques. I think from a photojournalist point of view, you know, at one point I stopped because I'm like, I don't typically edit. I don't do a lot of commercial stuff where I need to do the retouching. I probably just started getting into retouching with some product shots that I had to shoot recently. And I'm like, you know, I see the value in that commercial room where you need it. But I've always had that very much documentary photojournalist style where it's just like, if any change is there, it's really just lighting adjustments, you know, using Lightroom versus, you know, taking a software. I think Nix. Has anybody used Nix Suite before? It's like it's the software that I think Google bought it at one point and then got bought out again. So it was free at one point, and it's interesting. So I've been playing with this technique of using film filters on, you know, like different types of photography, and I use like, so they use the film emulation of like of what a Fujifilm would look like, or even a Rollei film would look like, which is, you know, it's interesting because you get a chance to play around with like stuff that you shot digitally and then bring it into this film realm. So I've kind of kept that as like a layered approach for presenting work when I want to put it online. I just never really had one style of doing it. So I'm curious on you know, your take with like editing. Do you toss certain things out the door and just have like a quick way to edit and, you know, ship it? Or do you play around with it a little bit for color correction to get a certain style, a certain aesthetic? A lot of angles to go from there.
Yeah, I do play around with. It's difficult, isn't it? Because with editing digital with film filters, the possibilities are endless.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggle with that, and I also struggle with the fact that it is not. I feel like it's a bit fake, but it's necessary. So there's a middle ground in finding an aesthetic that you're happy with, that I don't feel like that I've over processed. The other problem with over processing is it takes a long time, and you know, you want it out the door. You want it to look good and you want it out the door. And then the last thing I'll say is, if you are, experimentation is great. Experimentation is awesome because that's how we learn and that's how we find new things that are you know, exciting and visually inspiring. But then there's a middle ground there as well, because what you want long term is for people to know your style.
Yeah,
you want your audience and your clients, and I don't know, really know the general public, ideally, to know, like Matt Black, you know, that guy's style. Rob Hornstra, you'll look at that guy who I've just put in the chat, the guy who's leasing his photos now. He's leasing his stuff to galleries. You'll look at his work and you'll look at a photo and you'll know it's his. The danger with publishing a lot of different stuff that looks different every time is that people won't know it's you. Yeah, and the other, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, you want people to begin to know the topics that you cover, so that they come to you for those topics a lot. They're like, oh, Sid, I know Sid shoots culture up there in Toronto. I'm going to go to him because I need a piece on culture in Toronto. Or you want them to think, I need a piece out of Canada that is grainy black and white. Oh, I know Sid shoots grainy black and white. But if you're making grainy black and white and then you're making, you know, low contrast color, and then the next day you're making a panoramic on a different camera, it's fantastic for you and for me because it's fun. But you've got to hit that middle ground where people still recognize it as you. Over time, all of our work changes, of course. So evolution, a slow evolution, I think is natural and expected, and probably also necessary. But I think going from extremes fast is probably what you want to stay away from. I shoot digital on assignments, just probably like everybody else, unless I'm specifically asked to shoot film and they can pay for it and they know there's going to be a lower yield of images. Normally I shoot digital, and then what I've done is I've picked maybe only like two black and white filters and two color filters that are film based, analog film based, to put on my digital, so that I prefer shooting film, but I've picked these digital filters to put on my digital filters to put on my digital photos that look like the film I normally produce, so that I've limited myself in my options with my digital work, and then I can make my digital work look like my film work.
Interesting.
So I'm down here shooting, and I'll shoot. Although actually I was messing with my camera this morning, and it's broken, so I have to fix it. So I still shoot with this old thing. And
I've had, yeah.
It's amazing. It makes such beautiful images. So I found a film aesthetic that I like, and the short answer is now I've mimicked that with my digital in both color and black and white.
Yeah, interesting. That's good feedback, because I've definitely gone through the rabbit hole, and I'm not gone back to the actual work, because I'm like, it's taking too long, and I'm like, I need to jump to something that's going to bring in some cash.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
but you're right. Sorry, you're saying?
I was going to say that you're right. It's a rabbit hole. There's VSCO, and there's Nix, and there's Lightroom, and there's Photoshop's own presets, and countless. And with video, you get into LUTs, same thing. But sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying?
No, it was just it was very much on the topic of, like, you can, exactly what you were saying of being able to jump into it. Like, it's fun for exploration and experimenting, to, like, keep you learning up, to try different things. But I've found that my portfolio, and even, like, when I share stuff online, there's not one aesthetic because of that. Because I play around with it, share something just to see how people like it, and then I found it was just consuming more time than it actually needed, versus shipping something so it goes out there and people just enjoy the story within that time, which is why I kind of like the photojournalistic style of just, like, look at the color. It's not too heavy with editing, because essentially when you're covering stories, they need to go out right there and then, most of the time. So for long form, I was trying to figure out what that is, but it's cool that you mentioned that you stuck to just, like, using those two pieces. And I've tried to take a similar approach in some way. Like, Ilford is, like, the film that I started in high school. So for some reason, I just stuck with Ilford. Anytime I needed to go with, like, a film piece, I found something that could emulate Ilford, just because it felt like a signature style of, like, what I started with from high school. So it almost had that, like, hey, I started from here. I'm still kind of shooting with that a little bit, just for fun. But haven't really defined it. So I will explore that a little bit more to maybe refine that, and not go off every color angle I can, because I've got lost, and I still do.
Yeah, I think also the other thing that I do is you probably do this as well. I make presets and favorites. So I'll take that filter, and then I'll adapt it a little bit so it's correct for most of my color images, and then I'll do the same for my black and white one. So then it just makes it faster. Joseph, how do you do it? I have a feeling that you're used to color grading many images very quickly for weddings. What's your take?
Yeah, I think the ideal scenario would be to not have to do that, but in the wedding world, that's kind of that's what happens. Really, like any photographer you find, especially in the Midwest area, there are some that edit very heavily, and then there's some that edit very light, but there's always some type of edit. So, and that's kind of just how I've always done things. But with Fuji, I shoot Fujifilm. The in-camera processing is just unbelievable, and the way I pretty much just transfer those color profiles into Lightroom, and then I tweak from there instead of starting with a preset. I like Fuji because it resembles film in the sense that you're like, this is what I got. And I really like that kind of creative pressuring to just say, like, you just got to make sure you get your settings right and you have good content, and just let the camera do the rest of the thing. So with weddings, I do definitely a little bit more of an edit, but with any of the photojournalism projects I've done or NGOs I've worked with, I've kind of just let the scene dictate how it looks. And in that sense, just trying to create the closest representation to what I saw. And so I try very hard to not think about how it's going to look until after I've shot it. So that way I'm focused more on like, what am I looking at? Who is that person? What are they doing? Because I would usually go I was a portrait photographer and wedding photographer primarily when I went to Iraq. And so I kind of went into it a little portrait minded and kind of that big banger image minded instead of what is actually happening here and why am I taking pictures if I'm not going to tell a story kind of idea. So I think it just really depends on what I'm shooting, and I'd really like the scene to dictate how it looks instead of me just trying to create some very subjective view on what happened. Because I mean, we can't be completely objective, but you know, we'll try to get there as close as we can. And with my editing, I try to just make it as raw and real, but accentuate maybe the lights, the shadows, the light, whatever it might be. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. I think it's also, just to tack onto that, it's also, you know, I'm a visually minded person, so I get excited when I'm looking at things that are visually interesting to me, and then I want to emulate. So if I look at Matt Black's work and it's those square format, grainy black and white things, I want to do that because he makes it look awesome, and then I want to do that. Then I look at Chris Anderson and he's making real nice color stuff with light bleeds and stuff like that. Then I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I look at, I don't know, Natway's work, makes me want to go to war. I want to do that, you know. So what I'm getting at is, I think it's important, or for me, it's been important to limit how much other people's work I look at, because I just want to do what they're doing because it looks cool. So I have to limit inspiration input, so that I can concentrate on what do I want my style to be, what do I want my stuff to look like, what do I want my medium to say about the work I am putting out there in the world, and then trust myself in that process over time. You know, and again, for me, I don't get it correct to begin with. So, you know, I do quite like shooting my gritty black and white stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I try and keep it dissimilar from Matt Black and all those other classic guys, and I don't get it correct. It's a journey, isn't it? So you have an idea of what you want that image to look like in that medium that you've chosen, you've committed to that filter or that film stock or that camera. You don't get it correct straight away. Otherwise everyone would do it. It would be very easy. So, you know, it's about that practice and that repetition within your chosen aesthetic confines.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise the possibilities are endless and it never stops. And
you do that thing where you just hop from one look to the next, and then you think, well, what am I, like, what is, like you were saying, what is my style? What is going to be the thing that when people look at that image, whether that's subject or the way you've manipulated color. I mean, I don't like to hate on people that do heavy editing, because I still love the expression of photography, whether it's as real as it can be on the documentary side or as fictional as a photoshopped image. I think it's all very extremely interesting. But when I like connect to an image, it's because I feel like I'm there, and I feel like that's exactly how it looked. Like if I was standing right where that person was when they were shooting this image, I feel like that's what it'll look like. And I really love that kind of like, it kind of breaks you through this other wall, so to say, of like, instead of you're just viewing an image, you're instead like in this image and you're kind of feeling almost immersed in it. And I think that's my favorite thing about photography, is just the ability to take someone into a different time, place, setting, scene, way of life. It could be anything. And so those possibilities that are endless are a lot more exciting than, oh, is this going to be grainy, or am I going to make this faded, or am I going heavy contrast? Sure. What's cool right now? Let me hop on Instagram real quick. You know, I mean, I've done it. I kind of started out in the Instagram, you know, age, that golden rising of wedding photographers, especially in the Midwest. And And so it took me a very long time to break out of that, and a lot of negative self-talk that could have been positive self-talk that could have helped me progress past that a lot quicker. Instead of just saying, man, my images suck. It's just like, okay, well, what do I like? Let's work from there, you know, and then let's shave off the rest and then add that next thing on. And so editing for me is like not, I let it kind of happen. And when I'm sitting there, I'm like, yep, I think I want to make these images. I want to accentuate this part of it more. I want to accentuate the shadows more on this one, or the colors more, and just try to make it look like what it was, you know?
Yeah. So you've chosen your equipment and you've stuck with it, and then you're editing light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, definitely makes work easier. Is that helpful, Sid?
Yeah, mad helpful. I'm refining my pieces, and you know, sometimes the simplicity is the most important part of exactly what you said. Like, what's more important is you know, remembering what that image looked like in that space, and you know, not really shifting it. And you're right, it is easy to get the Instagram pieces really where a lot of that emulation comes from, right? Like you're trying to change it. And I remember doing that in Australia, where you know, I was playing around with stuff like Nix, and you just like have a whole different reality painted, which is fun, right? Like it's fun to explore that as an artist, and you know, put out different pieces. But when it comes to refining the craft and finding what is that fit of like the work that you do, it's true. Like you need a story style that can point in one direction and a certain style. And then yes, I think that evolution will happen, you know, as you refine further to different looks and to different scenarios that you're shooting in. So yeah, absolutely helpful feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's also no end, you know, it's like, there's no place you're going to reach where you're like, that's my style, maybe, you know. I think it's always going to be evolving, whether it's like this much or it's that much. And that's the beauty of creativity, and just kind of allowing it to dictate it.
Yeah. It's also, there's also one last middle ground in there, and it's finding a style that is not so crazy that people do not want to publish it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't like publishing black and white anymore, but you know, I like making black and white. So there's other people that will.
Anyway.
Yeah. How you doing, Sabith? You got any questions, mate? We've been talking about.
No, I'm just listening.
Editing.
I'm still figuring out my technical stuff. So technically, I think I'm like at the basement, not even at the ground floor. So
it's all right.
Yeah. I'm just Joe. In case you didn't know, I'm literally just starting off with photography. So I'm the absolute amateur here on the call.
That's
awesome. But I think I've taken some good portraits, to my credit, in the 3 months since I've owned a camera. So
wow, that's awesome. What kind of camera did you get?
I got a Nikon D7200.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah, I said, let's start. I mean, I did some research and I said, it seems like a decent, everyone's talking about it. So I said, let's give it a try, you know. So I got a used camera. I had a limited budget, said, let's start with what we can. And,
wow, that's awesome. Man.
Work my way upwards. Yeah.
It's good.
Spike, I had a question since Sabith was bringing up camera gear. Mirrorless or DSLR? What's your go-to now?
Oh, I go DSLR.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know why. I think probably it's just what I'm comfortable with.
The mechanical, heavy duty, rugged, clicker versus the digital one. It's interesting because it's lighter, so it's better for travel a lot of times when you're packing lighter gear. But I still like I'm comfortable with, like, I'm a Canon shooter, so I've always shot with a DSLR in general, and even for film, I guess, right? Like a DSLR.
I honestly can't see a benefit to DSLR over mirrorless anymore, except just that's what I'm used to for some reason. I don't know. I used what's the newest Sony?
A7.
The A7R4 or whatever it is.
Yeah. I used that a while back for I was working on a film and somebody was using that, so I had to jump in and muck around with it, and just, I don't know, it's just it's so complicated for me. I think it's just that with Nikon, I can pick up a Nikon and I know where everything is, so I think it's just comfort. I think it's just,
I think that the technology is becoming advanced to where there will be a very clear marker of DSLR to mirrorless. I switched from DSLR, like, I think 4 years ago, and I've never looked back. But it is definitely, there's just so much more going on in such a small space. So when you're up here, there are some dials and I'm like, man, my fingers just don't work that way. But then you get into like digital medium format kind of, mirrorless, and that's a whole different ball game because you got this massive camera with just a hulk of a sensor, and that's I think where we're moving towards more is that kind of medium format kind of way of shooting. I don't know. I think it's becoming more popular and more normal. But
it is, yeah, I think so. Sid, what are you shooting with?
It's fine. I play around with both. Canon has been my go-to. What I always kind of pick up, just the mechanical. I'm 7D Mark II right now, so I'm looking at a full frame upgrade. But I've been shooting with the Sony A7 II,
Nice.
which is still not, it's still not pro grade. So I've been looking. I've been able to play around with both. Keep one for travel, more leisure. The Sony, since it's more compact, and the Canon is kind of more my work body. So I've been able to get away with, doing more self-directed stuff. But as I'm tapping into the commercial realm more and more, looking for pitching contracts, and even just taking on maybe more roles, it's the full frame. You got to move to like a pro grade level of at least a Mark V with the Canon, or I want to play around with the A7S III, which just I've always heard is a low light beast. And in terms of like being able to dive into film, I'm interested in even just like playing around with something because I love just using natural light, no lighting at all, and just walking to spaces, doing a lot of nighttime work if I can get back into that. So I like to play around, but Canon is my comfort zone.
Canon's lovely. Canon's where I go to for cinema, for film cameras. I go C300.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. But Nikon cannot compare in terms of video cameras. Oh, here's a thing that might be interesting for all of you, and I'm sure some of you know about it. I use a rental place as well often. So when I own a lot of gear, but when I have a specific shoot, so Sabith, for example, if you were lining up a load of people to make portraits of, or if I was, then I'd go to the rental place and I'd rent a portrait lens, for example, for like $30 a day or something like that. So you can either experiment with gear. So, Sid, you could go get the new Sony camera and mess around with it for a day for $30. So it's kind of a way to try before you buy with new equipment as well. That's just a little aside. Thanks for posting.
What's it called, Spike? I mean, is it like an online rental, or do you physically go to a store?
There's one that I use local to me, called Photo Rental Source, but it's not national, so that won't be useful to you. But I think there's one called just called lensrental.com.
Okay.
There are some where they ship the lens to you as well.
Okay.
And then they give you the box, and you just put it back in the box. You put the pre-made label back on and ship it back out. So that might be helpful too. Yeah.
We're building a kit for youth over here through Scarborough Made, where we got some funding to actually pick up a kit and provide access to equipment for youth. In Scarborough, you don't have many rental spaces out here in the east of Toronto, so you typically have to go downtown, and then the cost for like a youth who wants to learn photography is pretty high. So we're providing like a affordable kit, and we're going with we looked at the Canon RP.
Oh yeah.
That body RP R6, which is a little bit the newer piece that came out. So it's interesting. I've been researching rentals and ways, insurance, and how it's the insurance part of it too. There's lots over there.
What's a good insurance? PPA do good insurance. Professional Photographers Association for I think just $25 a month, up to 10 grand.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
So, Sid, Spike, quick question before I forget. What are your thoughts on getting some sort of a press credential? Like there's the LA Press Club. I was wondering if I should become a member just for some extra access at points.
That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah.
I think I've had the question a lot. Probably I've spoken about it with all of you. What do I tell people when I show up to photograph and they ask who I'm with?
Yeah.
And if you don't have the piece pitched already and agreed by an outlet, that you can't say anything. So yeah, in that circumstance, you can use a press credential and it probably will get you in.
Okay.
That is a good idea.
And within that, again, I don't know if I'm being too specific. What level of membership would you recommend? I mean, do you go as a freelancer? I mean, do you have any membership with affiliation as a press, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, I have membership with NPPA.
Okay.
So I think it's probably the same as LA. Is it LA Press Photographers?
Yeah, LA Press Club. Yeah.
LA Press Club. This is National. Oh, I think it's National Press Photographers Association. I can't really remember.
Yes, it.
And they're good. I think the membership gives you insurance, and also it makes you eligible for their monthly competition,
Okay.
which is good because if you throw your work into a few of those competitions and you make some wins, then it makes it much more attractive for sale to outlets. So LA Press Club is probably good. NPPA probably good. But I think you only get one. I mean, you only need one membership card. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a really good idea.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just, again, looking at stuff and realized in case I show up somewhere for a shoot,
Yeah.
it's usually good to have some credentials, right?
Yeah.
I could use my university one, but they think of me differently then. They're like, what are you doing here with a camera?
Yeah. 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 And it gives you it legitimizes you a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. What is the application for LA Press Club? Is it because for NPPA, I know that they ask for some work samples, but you have those anyway, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, no, this is pretty simple, I think. I haven't looked carefully, but they just need you to apply. And I've also signed up for some classes at the local community college starting end of this month or early April, I think. So I should have, I could even just sign up as a student, right? I don't mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was wondering if, I should sign up as a student or try and just say I'm a freelancer. Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward. It's not too complicated.
If you can get in as a freelancer, I'd probably try that first.
It's better, right? Okay.
It just looks a little bit more legitimate.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although actually that is I think I'll stick with that answer. It's better to be a freelancer than a student on your ID. But that is another way of finding fairly solid access if you turn up as a student. There's a preconception, or maybe it's not a preconception, maybe it's reality of students as being non-threatening.
Exactly.
So if you show up and somebody says, who are you with? And you say it's just for a student project, normally people are like, yeah, sure.
I still use my Syracuse University ID occasionally if I need to get in somewhere on the cheap. I'm like, student. 40-year-old student.
Yeah, me too. I have a student
lifelong
ID.
learning.
Yeah, lifelong learning, man.
Yeah,
that's it.
I was going to say that also works in the Apple ID, Apple purchases for education. You could just say that you did, right? Like, so you get a good kickback over there. So that it always hurts to be a lifelong learner. It works.
Yeah, and Adobe as well. Because that is expensive now.
Yeah.
That is expensive. Sweet. Well, we're about at an hour. I don't want to keep you guys too long, but if you have any more questions, then you feel free to fire them before we head off.
That's great. I think we're good.
We've covered a lot today. We covered editing. We chatted to Joe about his work. We chatted to Sabith. We chatted about your pitches, your robotic futurism pitches, which I love. I think they're really nice. And also there's the pieces that you can make in the US. You can make those in Europe. You can make them anywhere. That's really nice. Sid, we chatted about your stuff, a little about editing. Wait, for you Bangaloreans, I know I told you not to look at other people's work. There's a Indian photographer called Palomi Basau, who's a friend of mine, and she's winning Magnum awards and stuff like that. But she makes a lot of work that is connected to her heritage in India, and you guys might find it interesting just from that perspective. She's also niched down on her own aesthetic over the years. You might like her work.
Thank you.
Cool.
Mhm.
Then Joseph, hit me up if you need any Ukraine connections.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. When I get some solid dates, I'm thinking it'll probably be second week of April for Ukraine, and then just for around the countries surrounding, probably end of this month. But yeah, that'd be incredible. Also, you guys, if you could send me your contact info and
Sure.
websites and all that, I'd love to connect and see you guys' work as well.
What's
Uh,
your
Joe,
Instagram?
I'm following you on Instagram, Joe. I just
Oh,
followed you.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And you have my website here with
Okay.
the link I just sent. So yeah.
Very cool. All right. Awesome. Well, this is incredible. Yeah. Thanks for doing this. This is very, feels very nice to chat with people in this realm, because especially where I'm at, very, very isolated. Like I'm the only person that I know that is pursuing documentary or photojournalism work, and in any type of creative capacity. If you don't have like people to be there with you, it just makes it so much harder. So yeah, I really appreciate this.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I find the same. I wanted to say thanks to you guys for getting on these calls as well, because I'm getting a lot of benefit and inspiration from talking to you all. And it's as freelancers, it's hard sometimes to find your motivation, you know,
Mhm.
to get out there and find the energy. But hopefully long term, you know, this helps people do that a little bit. Maybe we become accountable to each other, and
Yeah.
Sure.
So for me, I think this stage, since I'm literally starting off, I think this is very helpful, both in terms of technical details as well as, you know, how to do stuff, right? For me, it's more, I think that. So I appreciate your putting this together, Spike.
thanks, mate. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
There's that. So I was just gonna say, there's that saying, you know, where everybody's speaking, you always go further with people, right? You build a village and you
Mhm.
move like that. So very much so love connecting with y'all. It was dope kind of having the chats and then just see, even just like hearing ideas, names of like, you know, people, it makes such a difference for that learning process, for that refinement. So thank you, Spike.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thank you guys too. I really appreciate your energy and your effort with these chats as well. Yeah, it's good. So I've got some things to put together for you guys as well. And every time we talk, I think, oh my God, I got to write an article on that, and I've got to write a thing on that. So I'll keep writing.
Appreciate it, mate.
Yeah,
Thanks,
no
Spike.
worries.
All right,
No
guys.
worries. All right, I'll leave you guys alone. Lots of love though. Best wishes.
Lots
Bye
of
for
love.
now. See you, Joe.
Take
See you.
care.
Bye.
Peace, everyone.